ahead and get started. So welcome everybody. Thank you so much for attending Destination College. Super excited to have all of you here. My name is Gus Naked. I'm the Director of College Success for the Fulfillment Fund. Like I mentioned, we're really excited to have you here. You are in the Creatives panel, and we have a star-studded panel today. Super excited for everyone here. We have Georgette Pierre, Sam Aberman, Lori A. Neal, and Gil Gastelum here to provide you some insight and just some great resources for all of you that are looking to pursue a career in the creative industry. So I'm going to give all of them an opportunity to just quickly introduce themselves, and we're going to go ahead and ask them just different questions. But of course, this is an interactive panel, meaning we really want you, the students, to ask as many questions as possible. So go ahead and drop them in the chat, drop them in the Q&A. We want to hear from you. Any question you have, whether it's for all our panelists or maybe you want to direct one to someone specific, that's okay as well. Go ahead and drop them in the chat throughout the presentation. We'll be here together to about 10:50. So please make sure that you don't wait till the last minute to ask questions, because I know sometimes that happens and then you won't get it answered. So you definitely don't want that to happen to you. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to start with Miss Georgette Pierre. Can you please kick us off? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. Yes, my name is Georgette Pierre. I am an Emmy Award-winning producer, content creator, voiceover actor based in New York City, hence the Brooklyn Bridge. I started off in radio, in college radio and undergrad, and then I continued my pursuit of radio in grad school, and then I dipped into television. And so I am a freelance producer. I worked for Viacom Properties, which you're all probably familiar with, Nickelodeon, VH1, MTV. I did some bylines for Entertainment Weekly, MTV News, VH1. And so my experience ran the gamut from broadcast. And so now I am Nestle planted, creating my own visuals or video series and podcasts. So that's what I currently do right now.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. Let's move over to Sam Aberman.
There. I'm from Miami originally. I am currently an MBA candidate at UCLA. I've got one more year left, so close. I've been working for Hamilton for the last 5 years, so I'm a performer by night, an MBA student by day. And so I'm with the company in Los Angeles right now, and I've had a very, very weird journey to get here. So trust that it doesn't have to be, a straight shot. You can leave it, come back, and leave it, come back, and you'll find your way somehow. That's me.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Let's go with Lori A. Neal.
Hey, everybody. Good morning. I am an entrepreneur, designer by trade, procurement for the hospitality, nightclubs. I design restaurants. My journey, too, has been an interesting one. Started out in completely logical as a computer programmer. And the journey took me over hills and dales, across the desert, a little bit of water, but I was able to toe dip into a lot of great experiences that allowed my creative to thrive. So I'm excited to share that.
Perfect. And last but not least, Mr. Gil Gastelum.
Good morning, everyone. Yes, my name is Gil Gastelum. I'm the founder of Cosmic Artists. We're a music management and record label based in Los Angeles. I created the company because it felt like a lot of Latinx artists and artists of color were a lot of times in a rock and a hard place. But I've also worked with the biggest of the big. I've worked with Smokey Robinson. I've worked with Jackson Browne, Soundgarden, lots of different artists. And then as I created my company, and it didn't just happen overnight. For many, many years, my day job was recruiting students to my alma mater, University of Arizona, students from all over Southern California. My office was my car, basically, for about 5 years, driving all the way from Central California all the way to the border of San Diego, going to student fairs, college fairs, high schools, recruiting students. So I'm really happy to come 360 to be here and hopefully impart some good advice for you.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for giving us that brief intro into your lives. So let's just start. Most of our students are here are in high school, and If you remember when you're in high school, especially when it's time to start applying to college, it's like, I don't know what to major in, I don't know what school to apply to. And or even when you get to college, just like that crazy experience. So tell us a little bit about that, that transition between high school to college, or even when you were in college, what was your experience like? What did you major in? I know a few of you already alluded to it, but if you don't mind just giving us some more details. So let's go ahead and start with Lori.
Well, it's interesting, the journey. I was at that crossroads where we take the tests in high school to figure out which, what is the path. I had two options. I had to go into Air Force training, into officers training, which was an exciting option. But I typed 125 words a minute. So I got a full ride to go as a computer programmer. And that, I don't know, at the time sounded like a better route for me. Something that was more interesting, was very logic based, and something that I delved into, and it was a great opportunity. I went to the University of Hawaii. It took me about 3 years to get through the programming course. And when I came back is really where the journey started. I got a job with a high-end furniture manufacturer to be their IT person. It's not like Google. When I started, we worked the swing shift. The building would be empty, and it was a little maddening. And I couldn't understand why I didn't look further into how this related to the creative part of what was inside of me. I took the path that was logical and seemed like, what I'm going to do in the future, I'm planning for now. Fortunately, the owner of the company and I struck up a wonderful relationship. We had an interest in Albert Einstein. And about a year later, he actually sent me to design school. So I went to design school during the day and I worked at night. And I was able to take the two parts of my brain, logic and creative, and really create something that's created a business that's allowed me to work on hotels, on restaurants. I've designed the W penthouses. I've worked with Hard Rock. I've worked on the Academy Awards. I noticed that we have a lot of performers here. So my career has been really varied, and it was really focused by my skill set. I just picked up skills along the way, not having an intention that I would end up here today, but I'm an entrepreneur now 25 years with my own company. And I'm so excited to share the journey and see how, it plays out with questions for others.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That's crazy. And I think that just happens to all of us, right? We just think let's just go through the safe route. Like that just makes sense. I'm going to get a 9-to-5 job and I'm gonna pay off my school loans, and that's just the most logical thing to do. So let's go with that. But a lot of times it's really just about following your passion, which is one of our themes today, right? Passion, follow your passion. So I would like to know. Let's go with Sam. How did you discover your passion? How did you know that this is something that you wanted to do? What was that process like for you?
Boy, that's a really good question. I think I can chalk it all up to following my curiosity. If there was something that seemed interesting to me, I was able to kind of explore it. So I started dancing when I was young. A lot of people, they're like, I was 2 and I was in, that was not me. But I started off in a hip hop company. That was something that I was, really interested in. And so I danced and did that. And then I played softball. And then there are all these things I kind of have always felt like my heart was split into, that I always had a desire for business. And then I always wanted to perform. So those were 2 that always existed. So when I went to college, I was like, oh yeah, I'll be a dance major and then I'll double major in something else, so then I can have something, get my brain working while my body's working. And turns out it ended up, I ended up transferring to a different program. I was in applied physiology and kinesiology, which is exercise science. And it was purely based on the fact that I found it interesting. That was how I ended up making that segue. And then I was dancing with clubs and different things on campus instead of doing a program and getting a degree as a dancer. So it's kind of, you can see I'm still skirting that line with what I do today, that I always find myself where if I'm following one passion, then a couple years in, my heart goes, ooh, but what about this? Ooh, but what about that? So then I'll always find myself kind of veering. It's like a zigzag, always back and forth. And to tell you the truth, it's actually really helped, because being a performer is a brutal path to take. And sometimes you're really tired of hitting your head against a brick wall for an extended period of time. So it's really nice to have other things that you can kind of take a hiatus and use a different part of your brain and then come back to it when you feel reignited and passionate again.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. And yeah, it's true. It's so crazy. And I know that struggle. I actually pursued my MBA while I was working full time too, and that is no easy feat. It is insane. Like I can't tell you how stressed I was through that entire process. So I feel you have a full year to go. Good luck. I know you're gonna kill it. Georgette, I actually was reading up on you, and one of the things that I thought was interesting was that you were really insecure about your voice.
What?
And sorry to put you on the spot, but I just thought it was interesting. And now, I think a lot of us have those insecurities that we're just kind of like, this is just something that I'm not comfortable with. So tell us about that process of finally embracing it and just taking it on. And like now, look at your level of success. I just think that's so awesome that you took something that was just maybe, something that you thought you weren't comfortable with and you ran with it and you're doing amazing things with it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I love what Lori and Sam said. Lori, penthouses are, my spirit animal. Okay, I love a good penthouse. And curiosity is huge. Like Sam named it. So I remember when I was younger, I would wear hats, and you go through those phases as a young girl where you could look like a boy. And so when I spoke, it just kind of like solidified, like, you have a cute son. I was like, excuse me. And so as I got older, I was like, this raspy voice, I never liked. I hated listening to myself on like a pager voicemail. But as I got older, people, like, what I thought was an insecurity or what I thought was like, oh my gosh, this thing was actually more of my purpose, Gus, because everything that I did, people were always calling out my voice. I mean, when I did, someone was like, you have this voice for radio, you should just try radio. But I wanted to be a fashion designer. I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to do all these things. And then when I got into radio, I stayed there. And so by the time I got to grad school and continued with radio, I mean, people were calling out my voice for like, oh my gosh, do you sing? Oh my gosh, like if you were, I would just listen to your voice all day. And I was like, oh God, this is just a different energy from then when I was growing up. And so when I really embraced it, I was like, oh, this is part of my purpose. And it's not just radio. I have a voice that people will stop and listen to. So I had to be mindful of how I navigated that. And I will never forget, I interviewed Omari Hardwick. First season of Power came out. Nobody was watching the show, but I was obsessed. This was for VH1. Did a phone call, like a phone interview with him. Interviewed him for season 2. He was like, oh, I remember your voice. He remembered me from a year prior, strictly because of my voice. We had not seen each other. So I was like, oh, okay, we this energy really needs to be exercised creatively, but also connecting with people that also had some level of insecurity in something else that they did, right? And so me using my voice as my platform to share things I was insecure about or vulnerable about, it ended up just really working for me. And so I navigated that from radio to TV to podcasting to, other things that I've been working on.
I love that. Yeah, that's awesome. And yeah, I think our very own Kelly quoted you on, what if I was an insecurity actually turned out to be my purpose? Like that's deep right there. That's awesome. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. Gil, one of the things that I saw, some of your sayings are go where the love is and utilize the innovation of imagination. Tell us a little bit about where that stemmed from. What does that mean to you?
It's certainly something that has, since even before I had the company, has been something that's been near and dear to me because, a lot of the artists that I've worked with in my history has been artists that are coming up or new artists. That's been a passion of mine. I've worked with artists that have been established, but the sort of thing that's been really a big passion for me is working with an artist almost from scratch. And so, I'm not independently wealthy, and many of the artists that I work with aren't the same. So you have to find people that also believe in what you're doing so that another important word is pivot. You have to be like, almost like you're trying to figure out like where you need to go. That path is very rarely is straight for you. It is just, it's almost like rock climbing. It's like, you just got to go where you can cling on and so that you can keep on moving up. And so that's what I mean by go where the love is. And then, and the innovation of imagination is just really, many times we don't have budgets that we could throw money at a project. So the imagination, being able to really access the dreams and have that come out into the music is so important, because that really is the foundation of anything. I don't care how much I've been in independent projects where there's a big budget, but the music isn't there. And it's just like, you might as well just open up a window and throw out the money, and it's the same effect. It's like, it's got to come from you. It's got to come from your imagination. That's where your future and your dreams emanate from.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I think that's so true, right? You have to be able to, once again, pursue what you're passionate about and run with that. And I think that's really a common trend amongst all our panelists. And I think it's so great to be able to have such a great group of people here. Lori, one of the things that I know, you're a person of many trades, many crafts. I read that you're doing, in addition to all the great work that you're doing, and right, like Georgette mentioned, on penthouses and stuff like that. Sam, one of the, I know, also very similar to what I was going to ask Lori. Right now, you're doing so many different things, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, I don't know if it's true. I was looking at the Hamilton schedule. Do you have a show right now at 2 p.m.?
I do. We have two shows today and two shows
at 8, right?
tomorrow.
Yeah, that's so insane. And the fact that you're even here with us right now, where do you find the time to be able to do all these different things? You know, you do Hamilton, which is arguably one of the best musicals of our time. You're pursuing an MBA. You're doing all these different things. Like, what continues to just drive you, and to be able to just find the time to be able to do these amazing things?
That's a really good question. There are some days I'm like, this is nothing, no problem. Because I've been doing the show for 5 years at this point. I've done it nearly 1,000 times. So there are things that there's something that's very comforting when I go to work, that it's something I know, I'm familiar with. It feels great. You know, it's like, I know what the thing is. And so there's something that is, I always have like one thing in my life that's stable and consistent, and then one thing that kind of goes all over the place. So it feels like my job right now is the thing that I know and I understand, and it's safe, and I really enjoy it, and it's comfortable. And then school and auditioning for other things and building businesses, all of that is chaos, you know. So as long as I have something to anchor into, and of course I'm a big homebody, I always have to have time and space to myself at home. But I really think if it's something that, and I hate when people say that, so forgive me that I'm now saying this, but when it's something that you love and you're excited about, there's so many ways that you can push through your usual human limitations. And honestly, the thing that really helps, we have, you got to make sure you take care of yourself. You have to know your limits. So know when it's something that you might want to say yes to, but your heart is saying, you know what, I really need this day to myself and I need to say no. I think really learning those boundaries, granted, I'm 31, I still haven't mastered that yet, but it's a work in progress, you know. I'm learning as I go. But as I get older, that's my favorite thing, is knowing when I can compartmentalize those things. So then I am ready to go when duty calls, you know.
No, yeah, no, that's a great point. And like you said, I think over time, over experience, you're able to are you able to prioritize the needs versus the wants, right? What you absolutely have to currently do, and the projects that you want to pursue versus the ones that can maybe take a backseat for the current moment. All right, Lori, I think we have you back, and I saw you actually wrote something on the chat, which was a question that I was trying to refer to. You're, in addition, same thing, to pursuing all these different amazing things that you're doing, you're also pursuing a project on sustainable energy. I think your goal is to provide water and power as an equalizer around the world, which is amazing. So tell us about this project and how do you decided to pursue something like this?
Well, this was one of those organic situations, speaking back to knowing what it is that kind of our passion is attached to. So I was working on a design project and got hired by a gentleman to redesign a house. And we struck up some conversations, and he was in green energy and had developed a technology through wind extraction to create water and power, and was looking to partner with a company that could build the infrastructure, design the homes. And so we became a partnership. And so for the last 2 years, unbeknownst to me and never having an idea about energy, knowing absolutely nothing about the field, I took this on as a side project, thinking that sustainability was, where we're headed. We have the climate initiative in 2030. And so it was something that would take my business into the next direction of what was coming. Little did I know that we would also have the opportunity to provide the Native American community with this equalizer, what I call this equalizer. So many of the panel are esteemed, television and film and radio. So what we are doing is we are creating a production studio out in Coachella Valley, and we will run this facility primarily with the Native American community, and the wind extraction technology will fuel the whole valley, basically. And so we're part of the endeavor is to refill the Salton Sea. Now, this is not something that I could have put a marker on, never dreamed about, never even thought about. What it was my business is very transactional, right? I do a lot of paperwork. I do a lot of purchases from other countries for hotels and such. And it got to be a little tedious. And although success was there and all the markers of success were there, I wasn't having any happiness in what I was doing. So it's kind of falling flat. I did a big premiere for a movie, did the set design, and it was very successful, but I didn't have any sense of accomplishment or pleasure or joy around it. And so when this opportunity presented itself, it gave me the chance to have my creative fuel everything that I was doing, which gave me this freedom of time to spend 2 years on something that I had to completely educate myself on independently. It's a big conversation everywhere. And so I've talked to the House of Representatives. I've been in front of some congressmen. My life has changed dramatically. However, I've still had to run my regular company and do my day-to-day. So very much like some of the other panelists, your passion really does fuel what's your potential, is in there. I was really fortunate to connect with some people that had me see what my true purpose was. And so organically, here I am today about to do something that will leave a legacy far beyond me.
That's amazing, right? And yeah, that word legacy, I think is like you just essentially is just such amazing things that you're currently doing, and that work is going to impact so many different people in different ways. So thank you so much for that, and thank you for sharing that. And that's so amazing that you're able to pursue all these side projects in addition to the great work that you're already doing.
Yeah.
So thanks again for sharing all that, Lori. Gail, back to you. One of the things that I noticed, or that you said, was, and you kind of alluded to it during your intro, and I'm going to essentially paraphrase, but one of the reasons why you started this label was because you saw that a lot of people in this industry, specifically Latinx, were being told to sign with a label or a Latin label, even though most of the work that they were doing was in English. And you said, I felt compelled to use my experience in the industry to help my friends in a way that was blind of ethnicity, race, and language, and simply work with artists who I felt were not only great, but worthy of a place at the table among all the other hipsters who had exclusive membership up to that time. And essentially, really, you wanted to take it back to branding and marketing, and you wanted it to be about music. What I want to ask you is, one, do you feel that that's still true now? And two, what are you still doing to be able to do that mission that you put in front of yourself?
Right. I mean, I think it's going to be forever moving forward. I think it's going to be a fluid situation. I don't think that there is such a thing as like maybe a finish line to what we're dealing with, as far as like, certain I don't know, racist or discriminatory kind of behavior, I suppose, because that was really kind of like what the genesis of it was for me. There was a lot of people that were placing a lot of just sort of like preconceived notions of like who a lot of my artist friends were, and it was very, very, very frustrating for me. And I think there are certain things, and you probably hear this a lot, especially if you listen to any political commentary or social economic type of stuff. It's always evolving. There are certain things that are getting better. I think that the industry is trying really hard to serve the artists that I felt needed to be served. But at the end of the day, sometimes business and art are uneasy partners. And so so there's people out there that are yeah, let's get with the Latinx community because they're seeing money, and that's great. Again, we want to show our might, but at the same time, it's like you make sure that you're putting your best foot forward with the kind of art that you're putting out, and not just putting out just whatever is the flavor of the moment. It's
great.
you know, there's nuance to that. And so on our end, it's just really, you know, there's so much great talent out there. The biggest challenge for us is just to be, you know, if it was up to me, I would sign everybody. And it's just, you know, it's just not possible. And so what I'm trying to do, and why I love to be on panels such as these, I volunteer my time at least a couple times a month to talk to other you know, young entrepreneurs or people that are thinking about getting into the industry, to encourage them to follow their own path in entertainment or the recorded industry. You know, this doesn't begin and end with me. And I think sometimes people believe their own hype. I like to think I don't, and I want to encourage. It's just not me doing this. I don't want. Sometimes I felt that way. Sometimes I felt like I was doing something in a vacuum. Does anybody care what I'm doing? And now I'm finally realizing that there's enough people to encourage me to keep going, but also to you know, in some way, form, or fashion, to create a path for them to you know, break through that door. I hope I answered your question.
No, you did. Yeah, thank you. No, and I think it's true. I think what you mentioned, right? There are so many different people and that are also trying to do the same thing, and just like you said, break those negative connotations or those stereotypes and things like that. So I'm, you know, glad that you're also doing that, and you're also finding allies within the same industry that are also trying to pursue similar goals.
Yep.
So I think that's definitely refreshing to hear. Georgette, so gonna hype you up a little bit, but you have an Emmy. How crazy is that? We have like an Emmy. And I heard that you won this Emmy. I think you were having brunch with a friend and you got a phone call or something like that. Tell us just a little bit about that. Like, congratulations, first of all. That's
Thank you.
super amazing. But tell us a little bit about that and what you won the Emmy for.
Yeah, you know, it's so funny. It's a crazy story. So I had, it's funny because Sam, you were in Miami. I had went down there for a year, South Florida, to do radio because I thought I wanted to do radio. I had hit a wall in TV production, and I'm like, let me exhaust everything that I thought I wanted to do in my life. And so I was like, the one thing I never pursued was commercial radio. So I went down to Miami for a year at DJ Khaled's old radio station, and I get a text from my former coworker at Nickelodeon. He was like, Georgette, you know you want an Emmy? I said, I want an Emmy for what? I want an Emmy. I want an Emmy for what? And so he sent me the text, and it was a screenshot of the Emmy and like the list of the people that worked on it. So I was a production manager on a Black History Month campaign that we did for Nickelodeon in 2018. And then usually the Emmys like for like the following season. So it was 2018 to 2019. But the funny thing is, like, yes, I got the Emmy, but just to give you all context on where I was and sometimes the things that we deal with when we're navigating our own industry or even just like our own paths. Imposter syndrome was lingering for so long. So when I was in Miami for that year, they obviously shipped it to the New York office when I was working at Viacom. So when I came back to New York, 2019, I got this big case and I did not open that case. Mind you, I got this in 2019. That case only got opened and put on display back in May of this year because there was so much of me thinking like, I don't know if I did enough to really deserve this. I don't, you know, I was just really in a space of questioning it. And when people were like, Georgette, you need to be wearing it around your neck like a necklace, like you should always lead with having an Emmy. And in my mind, I just didn't feel that strongly. I have some crazy friends that work in the industry, but they were like, I'll be rocking that like a chain. I was like, yeah, but it was just, there were so many things that were happening. And then I had run across gatekeepers that didn't deserve to be gatekeepers that just did not know how to manage people, nurture people's talents and skill sets that look differently than what they were used to managing. And I just remember I woke up and it was Labor Day. I mean, it was Memorial Day weekend, and my body just walked to my office bedroom. And I was like, oh, let me just open what's in this box. And I literally sat there, screwed the nameplate on, and I posted it on Instagram. And I was like, no, I am worthy of this. I deserve this. And yes, I am dope AF. Okay. So we're gonna put this Emmy up. And so yeah, it was from a Nickelodeon campaign. And I was just like, being inspired by other creators like an Issa Rae and Ava. I was like, oh, I'm going for more. I'm going for more. But it's bigger than the award. I think, for like Sam, I think you can appreciate this. Like, it's bigger than the award. It's the journey that it took for you to get to these things. And as a Black woman, we're also dealing with different things on the diversity front, right? And so it's just, I want other people to know that they can get there too. And there's no straight path, because I never had wanting to win an Emmy on my vision board, and it happened. So now we're going for the EGOT. Okay, I don't know how we're gonna get there, but we're going for the EGOT.
And you mentioned, of course, you mentioned so many different things, but one of the things that stood out was imposter syndrome. And I think that's so important. So I'm gonna just, because you said it, I'm gonna kind of have you lead with this again. And for our students who may not be aware of what, even though they experience it, maybe they don't know that there's a name for it, right? Yeah. So can you tell a little bit about what imposter syndrome is, and what that essentially does to you and how you can overcome it?
Absolutely. Imposter syndrome, you start to not believe that you are deserving of where you are, or you start questioning how you got to the places that you're in, right? So me being a producer or in production, I literally just started feeling like I'm an imposter. Like, they're going to find out that I don't know what I'm doing, right? But you know what you're doing. That's the thing. You know what you're doing. But imposter syndrome will creep in, making you believe that you didn't earn and didn't work towards the things that you're doing, or to have the position that you're in. And the place that I just recently left as a freelance producer, I remember there was just a gray cloud of just imposter syndrome lingering. And it was literally this one woman just said to me, and it was just digital. And I just want you all to hear how it sounds, because you have to really like tune in and check yourself. But she was like, oh, I don't think you understand digital. You came from broadcast. And so I just don't think you understand digital. And I'm thinking to myself, like, and this is not me thinking like, well, I got an Emmy. It's literally like she has me questioning myself, right? And the moment I left that company and my contract ended, everybody that wanted to hire me while I was on contract there was like, they're pulling me left and right, putting me on series and shows and things of that nature. And it was a reminder that sometimes gatekeepers that are in that gatekeeping position do not belong there. And you have to listen to yourself, to people that know who you are, but you also have to know who you are. Because imposter syndrome will have you believing otherwise. You will be afraid. You won't be willing to take risks. No. You have to know that you are enough, and that you are deserving of everything that you are going after. So imposter syndrome will seep in, silent creeper, but it doesn't have to live there. You don't have to live there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think that's such a great point too. And we talk to our students about imposter syndrome, and specifically for when they're getting into these colleges and universities, and sometimes these prestigious universities, and our students start doubting or questioning themselves, like, what am I doing here? Like, there's all these other people, and like, do I even belong here? Did I get in because of my merit? And it's like, yes, you did. You earned that place. You earned that spot. So embrace it. I say, yeah, I think that's such a great point. So thank you so much for sharing that. And I want to remind our students, we have about 8 minutes left. So if you haven't asked questions, or if you're holding off to the last minute, send in your questions now, because it's a hard stop at 10:50. Sam has to get to go start practicing to get on stage, so we can't hold her any longer. So make sure that you submit those questions ASAP if you haven't already. So Sam, I'm gonna go to you too. I think sometimes we have this misconception that we got to do this on our own. That it's just like, you're just like by yourself and there's no one in your corner, and And it's like, Sam, tell us about your community, your village, so to speak, right? Like your networking and your any mentors that you may have had that helped you put you in the position that you're currently in.
Ooh, that is a very good question. Also, Georgette, I wanted to tell you, I literally have a sign, you can't see it really, but it says nobody knows anything on my wall to remind me that we're all just bumping into things and no one really knows what we're doing, but we're doing our best.
I got to get that, Allie. Sam, I got to get that.
I had to put it in my living room because I was like, otherwise I'm going to forget. So you need to know. So village, oh my Lord. I am actually a horrible proponent of this because I am a kind of a lone wolf generally as a person. And so it's really difficult for me to rely on other people. That's really hard for me. And it's taken a lot of practice to know that even with my company right now in Los Angeles, the Hamilton company, I was telling everybody earlier that they're all veterans from another Hamilton company. So it's just kind of like a mutt of all the different companies. And there's something so incredible, especially after the pandemic. Everyone is in such, or not after, I mean, we're not done with it, but during the pandemic, and we weren't able to work for 16 months, that coming back in, there's this vulnerability and this sharing that I've never experienced before in that workplace. And I realize whatever it is you're going through, you're not alone. There's someone else that's the one thing I appreciate about social media is that you can see that there are other people that are dealing with things that they might not be able to share that, publicly, but there is always someone who is experiencing something similar to what you're going through. Your community is out there. So I think just having faith and knowing that you will find your people, even if you don't have them right now, that is something, knowing that that's true and holding your friends tight. I think I was lucky that I have a great relationship with my family, but a lot of people don't have that scenario. And so it's your chosen family. It's who you find. And I think being willing to share and let someone carry you gives them the opportunity to then lean on you in return when those moments come. And so I think it's a little bit of a trust fall and it takes some serious practice, but I promise, as a person who took a long time to find your people, they're out there. I promise.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much. And yeah, I think you hit a great point, right? Just because you haven't found them yet doesn't mean that they're not out there.
Right.
So, continue to get out there, find like-minded people, and find also, they don't always have to be like-minded, right? You can have people in your circle that don't necessarily agree with everything you have to say, and you can still have those respectable discussions or debates, if you will. So I think that's also a thing. And Lori, same question. Can you talk a little bit about how networking has played a role in some of the successes that you had in your life?
Well, it's interesting, having had a few different careers in the journey, the tribe has changed, right? It has a different focus. I have my infill group of people that I can always depend on, and many of them have just joined the journey with me in the last couple of years. Fortunately, I have a good relationship with my family, although we're a small family, so tribe has been important, right? And choosing a tribe that serves where you are on the day that you're making the choice is what's so important, right? Because it is a big trust relationship that we create with people when we network. We're vulnerable to let them know where we're at with our businesses, where we're at with our, our personal desires in terms of where we want to be, and we want to be with like-minded people. And so this networking conversation takes us across, all the spectrums of the phases of our careers. And I found that lately my tribe are people that I would have never expected, right? I have some scientist friends now. I have some people that work in energy that build things that I could have never dreamt about. But what it's done is as a beginner. So I love what you have hanging in your living room, because I live my life as kind of a beginner, right? I'm always learning something new every day, and it allows me to be in my best self, which gives my network my best efforts. And so it's important that you surround yourself with people that want to see the best for you and you for them, and that, you can grow accordingly.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And Gail, similar question. Are there any mentors that you've had throughout your career that have helped you achieve your level of success?
Oh, absolutely. Someone that a person by the name of Fred Crochelle. He ran Madonna's company Maverick for many, many years, and he hired me to do independent marketing projects when I had never really done that before. I had always done it through a record label, but not just sort of like on my own, where I was able to like work with some pretty big artists, and it was up to me to come up with the plans. I'd never done that before. I'd always had somebody above me saying, this is what you're going to do, and you follow those plans. And he was really the one that just sort of like took me under his wing and just said, look, I believe in you. You come to me when you have any questions, and but this is your baby now. And so took the I took the ball and I ran with it as best I could. And, I made mistakes along the way. You're afraid especially when you're first starting something new, you're afraid to make those mistakes. But at the end of the day, you understand that mistakes are inevitable and that you're going to, if you learn from them, then they're actually what I call happy mistakes. It's like, if you learn from it, then great, because you won't make that mistake hopefully again. But yes, definitely I've had other people as well that have been very encouraging, whether it being at a label or, I worked for a time with Robert Rodriguez, who's somebody that I've known, he's a known film director. I had the privilege of meeting him when I was in college, and we just have stayed friends over the years, and off and on, I've worked with him on different projects, and he's been somebody that's just also, he's just I think he's 3 years older than me, and he's accomplished so much, but he still will, take the time, just like, okay, this is what I want to do. This is how I think you do it. But at the end of the day, it's, I want you to do this. So it's been really fantastic. I've been very, very blessed. Not always, but I've had some really wonderful things happen throughout my career.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, and it could also be a peer that is your mentor as well, right? Like you mentioned, it doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be someone that's a lot older. So that's also a great point. Well, thank you so much. We're at 10:50, right on time. Thank you so much, Sam, Georgette, Lori, Gil. You all were awesome. This was amazing. I wish it didn't have to end. But once again, thank you so much, students. We hope that you took a lot out of this. Make sure to take the survey. We put it in the chat for you. Once again, thank you all so much for helping us. We hope that you continue to volunteer with us and talk to our students any chance you get. But once again, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. You all are doing some amazing things. But with that being said, take care, everyone. Have yourself a great rest of your Saturday. Bye.